Welcome to Vicky O'Neon. Thank you for coming and chatting with Jenny, the representative of the Dubler team at Vochlea today. How are you?
Good. I'm enjoying the summer heat actually.
Yeah. Yay, that's awesome. I'm glad somebody is. Where are you at the moment?
I'm in Swansea, southwest.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay, lovely.
the sea is 2 minutes away, so I'm very blessed in this heat.
Just to let people know who you are, if you haven't come across Vicky O'Neon before, Vicky is a drummer and percussionist, a producer, an educator, a YouTuber, and the co-founder of Girls Rock London and Rock Donna in Finland, which is quite an impressive CV. Well done.
Thank you. I'm a workaholic. That's it.
Well, we're going to talk. We're going to talk about the topic of innovation today, and particularly in relation to your career, but also your experience with the Dubler, which is really exciting. So, first question: talk to me about your relationship to innovation? What does it mean for you?
Innovation is how I want to live my life.
Mm.
In a sense, it's like I just whenever I can be creative, I'm happy. So I just try to approach life that way as well. And if things get too samey for me, I get bored. So I need that's probably why I've done so many different projects in my life and do so many different things, because that just really inspires me. And I feel like the educator in me is always teaching me about the creator in me, but then the creator in me is helping me, so it's like everything is somehow tied in together.
Mm.
But yeah, I think life is about innovating. Like you're in control in that sense, and you create the life that you want to have. And I think a lot of people maybe don't look at life that way because they've just been too scared to embark on that journey. But
Mm.
that's something that's how I've approached life really since I started to play the drums. And I think the drums really taught me that.
Mm.
And just when it comes to drumming and music and improvising and creating, yeah, that's it.
How long have you been actually been drumming for?
So I started to play drums when I was 19 years old, and
Mm.
I had been in like all female punk band before that, where we were all jumping around on different instruments. I sort of got a little bit of a flavor for the drums, but I didn't start playing until I was 19. And only a year later, I actually applied for a school in London, Drum Tech, to do a degree in drumming. So when I fell for the drums, I fell hard.
You did 1 year. That's amazing. You were recently introduced to the Dubler, mostly because I was like, you should try this.
I mean, I had seen it already before you reached out, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? I need one of these in my life. So thank you for that introduction and for giving me that opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. How do you feel like your experience so far with the Dubler has encouraged or inspired you to innovate?
It's been great. I feel like I've been able to approach creativity and innovation in a different way from before, just because of the nature of the doubler.
Mhm.
And I've always been making music, creating sounds out of like weird objects and things around me. And I always used to think, and I've been running workshops doing this as well, like people building vegetable instruments and just things like instruments of stuff they find in their environments. And I've always been thinking, oh, how can I combine this with the electronic world, with Ableton, because that's another passion of mine. And I've always struggled to, in some ways, combine these two worlds. And when the doubler came into to my world, I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the bridge. So it was so much fun. I made the first video that I made with the doubler was my own version of Born This Way by Lady Gaga. And there I set up my makeup, basically my makeup kit and a wine glass and some other little things. But then that was all MIDI mapping, and it was all just whatever fat, cool sounds and kits I, I was assigning to that, which nothing else can do that. I had never been able to do that before. And I was so impressed by how user friendly it was, first of all, how easy it was to just literally take, like, oh, what if I would take this thing? And then you just assign whatever cool sound you want to that. And even when you have like a full drum kit, essentially, how it's working, and it's working really well, and there's not a lot of like re-triggering or cross triggering and all these things. I was really impressed actually from get-go, from just getting it out of the box, and just with like what I've watched, maybe like 1-2 minute like tutorial on like how to use the doubler, and I was like, oh, I can do this now. And then it's just creativity from that point onwards.
That's awesome. I love that. Like, actually, we really loved that video as well, the Born This Way video. It reminded me of, it was sort of like, it felt like you were backstage, like waiting to go on stage, and you just decided to like make a drum kit out of everything that you had used to prepare to go on stage. And I was like, this is awesome.
And obviously also then the voice aspect, which I guess that's the way most people use the doubler as well, to just use your voice in that way. Because sometimes or very often actually, I hear things in my head, but I was like, how can I translate that? Because I don't want to sing that. I just want that to be whatever instrument. Oh, now I can just do that, you know.
Yeah, that's wicked. On the same kind of field, as it were, what kind of innovation have you seen like in the past year? Because it's been a really unusual year, but what kind of innovation have you seen that has really inspired you?
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, and it's probably because I just had a meeting with this guy named Tobias Hunk, and he runs an Ableton group called for Ableton drummers specifically. It's called Ableton Drummers, and he makes a lot of Max for Live devices, which is these. For those who don't know what Max for Live is, anyone can basically create a device that and a function within Ableton that doesn't already exist there. That can be anything that has to do with lights or something geeky, and he is specifically working with drummers, and specifically working with the Roland SPDSX, which is such an important part for tool for drummers to use, and especially in this world where we're moving more and more into all drums we hear in recordings are electronic, or a lot of them. So how can we recreate that? So he's making all these really, really cool, user-friendly Max for Live devices that makes it so easy for drummers to actually move into this electronic world. And I don't know if that's like the most amazing innovation that's happened this whole last year, but that's just something that has been like blowing my mind, because I'm diving more and more into that world. That it's like, wow, yeah. So that was just the first thing that came to my mind.
That's cool. So essentially, you're looking at, I mean, Max for Live, you're talking about the different aspects of live performance that can all be triggered from the same device or the same piece of software. So you haven't just got the audio element and being able to control different aspects of that, but also visuals, things like projections, things like lighting triggers, all those kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so Tobias Hunk is specifically creating Max for Live devices for drummers to make this whole electronic world of drumming easier to perform live, because there's so many details that goes in when you're like, oh, I just wish I could do this and I could do this, and he's like, I got a device for it, I got a device for that, and it's like, yes, this is amazing. But that's so cool, and also so daunting in some ways about Ableton specifically. That's the platform that I prefer to use, because anything is possible. Like anything, if you can imagine it, you can make it, you know, and you can create the coolest bloody live performances as a result.
Well, innovation isn't just about taking what's already there and giving it like a fresh twist. It's also about problem solving, and that's such a big part of audio tech and engineering. Essentially, like I joke sometimes that like engineering is 90% problem solving.
You're so right. So for a while, and that's why I was so afraid to actually move into this whole world of production of electronics, because it was just so intimidating at first.
Mm.
But now it's almost like you know, that's a part of innovation now. Just like you said, I like, oh, okay, how can I problem solve this? Oh, if I connect that and if I route this here and if I create that chain, and that becomes a part of the whole creative process, because you create your own little pathways for how you can perform, for how you can create.
Yes, absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head. And that segues so beautifully into my next question, which is how do you plan to keep pushing your innovation within the next year?
Oh, that's a good question. So I'm actually currently supported. I just started my YouTube channel in the beginning of this year, so it's still really early stages, but the Swedish Cultural Foundation in Finland is supporting me to do that, to create content. So I'm currently doing a really amazing series called Drumming Through the Decades, which is the history of the drum kit and drumming, but highlighting female identifying drummers. Because most of the time when you look up music history or drum history, it's all about men, and it's very rare that you actually see women featured in any of this material. And there's been so many incredible women throughout. I mean, all drummers used to be women back in the day, you know. So it's just 2000 years ago, yes. And it's like, what happened then? And you know, and this series is, it's 12 episodes. It's a huge project that I'm right in the middle of now, but I'm loving it. First of all, it gives me so much to go in depth and do all of this research, to find it inspires me so much for my own creativity and my own innovation, to find out about all of these bands and drummers and artists who's been there that have just been forgotten, or they haven't been picked up the same way as the men has.
That's amazing. Wow. I'm so excited for that. I love the fact that you've now just like added that you're like a casual drumming historian to like your resume.
So that's the first project I'm doing now for my YouTube channel. But the next project that I'm going to be doing after that is even more about creativity and innovation. And it's also a series. It's going to be a 7-episode series where I'm traveling around to different cities in the UK that all have like music history, like big music cities.
Mm.
And it's going to be a little bit of like a treasure hunt. I'm doing it with this videographer who is absolutely nuts. So he's going to set like all sorts of different challenges to me in each city we go to. But the idea is to basically record samples in these cities through challenges. So then we do one day of just filming these challenges, and I collect loads of different sounds. And then the next day, I have one day to create a piece of music with the sounds that I have collected.
Oh my
So
gosh, that sounds wonderful.
yeah, and that was a challenge I set myself, because I was like, oh, I struggle to find the time, or to just set aside the time to just dive in and be creative. Because well, now I'm doing this series, you know, it's just so easy. You get easily distracted when actually I'm like, I can feel it in me right now, because I haven't been writing a lot of original material for a while, and I really want to get back to doing that. So that's why I was like, oh, I'm just going to set myself this challenge of creating this whole series then. So that's what that's about. And I'm
I
really
love it. Go big or go home. Well, in that case, we're on our final question, um, which is what kind of innovation would you like to see in the kind of wider music world or just generally right now?
hard question. I don't feel like anything is missing, because there's just so much out there already. I don't know, for me, it's just spending the time with all of the innovations that are already out there and really honing the skills to use them properly.
Mm,
That's what I feel like almost right now, that the innovations are there. Now
mm.
it's finding the time to actually be creative and innovate with what's already there.
So it's almost more like you'd like to see like there be almost a bit of an attitude pivot towards innovation. Like innovation isn't necessarily there just to make everything easier for us. Like there needs to be like a meeting point where you're like it inspires you to develop rather than just making your life easier.
Yeah, yeah, and I think in some ways, because there is so much out there right now, as a creator, it can almost feel a bit overwhelming, you
Mm,
know. So it's like finding a, a channel where you feel like you can use all of these tools that are out there. I don't know, because
mm.
I have so many instruments, for example, it's like I barely even touch, you know. So I feel like the options are definitely out there. It's more about, yeah, find
Mm.
the way to use all of that.
Yeah, but also to streamline so that it's something that like things what's the word? Things the confluence between those things is smooth and there's a sense of it being developing your approach to music making rather
Mhm.
than it just being as you say like drowning in hyper choice.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing that is challenging today is to actually then get your creations out there, because there is so much. There's so much, so many people are creating. So it's like, how do I then take these creations and really get them to where they need to get to?
Cool. Yes. Amazing. Okay. Well, in that case, we're going to drop some links in the description for your new series, your Drumming Through the Decade series, and for where people can find you on socials. But yeah, but thank you so much for your time, and let us know what you make next with the Dubler. We're so excited to see.
Yeah, yeah. It's probably gonna come with me to one of the cities in the UK.
That sounds wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
See you soon.